In this market update, we are going to discuss what we are seeing on the ground in LA. Recently, I just drove through Los Angeles and I'm seeing multiple retail stores that are empty. If you'd like to learn more about how that could potentially impact the economy, continue listening. Welcome to the Red to Black podcast with your hosts Warner and Mario. And today we're discussing retail stores that are empty in Los Angeles and how that is impacting the economy. Mario, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Warren, we took a little lap around some of the most desirable retail space in the world, not America, the entire world, in Westwood and just east of Westwood, down Sunset Boulevard, etc. And it's imperative that these businesses are putting products in there and they're providing either a product or a service for those commercial-backed mortgages to be able to pay themselves back, interest plus principal, plus a return to the investors. And you're not seeing that. You're seeing lots of for lease signs in really desirable real estate. I think LA survives. The weather's so beautiful there. The weather's so perfect basically year round that it's going to survive in some capacity. But this is permanent loss. There is permanent loss occurring right now in the economy with all these retail brick and mortar shops being vacant.
Yeah, so I was actually driving in Beverly Hills today, and I didn't go down Rodeo Drive. I went down one of the drives, I think that was east of it. I forget the name, but yet I was driving down, I'm seeing a few stores that are vacant. I mean, I saw maybe 5 or 6 in one of the most desirable, and that's just one street. And I wasn't looking at every block in every store. So I saw about 4 to 6 stores that were empty, for lease signs. And if you drive down other streets like Wilshire, Rodeo Drive, there's for lease signs every other store, or depending on where you are. Some areas are just packed full of good quality stores that are still around, and some other areas you'll see 3 or 4 vacant stores. So you drive down, going to continue south, you drive down Robertson Boulevard, and there's a lot of other vacant stores. And these are all like salons, anything from furniture stores, design stores, the whole gamut of stores. And what's happened was in this past shutdown, a lot of these owners weren't able to keep their doors open. I mean, if you think about it, most tourists stop. I mean, the tourist industry literally did a hard stop coming to Los Angeles, and then most people were staying inside. So if you're a business that relies on foot traffic, your foot traffic dropped by probably 80%. So what does that mean for the economy? Well, what that means is psychologically that a lot of business owners are smoked after that went down. Maybe they have the money and they decide not to go back into business because they see what's going on, or maybe they lost all their money and they can't go back into business. So there's multiple different things in the economy where there's these small stores that are now gone. And like you said, who's paying that mortgage? Who's paying that lease? You take that backwards and you're like, well, that mortgage could be a mortgage-backed security. And who's invested in that? Could that be a pension fund? I mean, we don't know. We haven't done the research, but there's probably a few pension funds that are invested in these mortgage-backed securities. So as the initial warning sign that we see, which is these vacant retail stores, it's not only in Beverly Hills, it's across the entire city because I've driven it. You're seeing now, there's revenue that's not going to these mortgage-backed securities. How's that going to impact the pension funds and anyone else that's invested in that? How's that impacting all the producers of those goods that were shipping goods to those stores? And then there's a whole host of other things like truckers to the people that were servicing those stores, maids, cleaners. I mean, there's a whole around those little stores. There's a whole economies that are supporting those stores, and now they're just gone. So what is the ramifications of that on the economy?
Yeah, individually, small businesses, individually, the owner makes, about $150,000 a year on average, a little small and pop, but collectively they're 50% of our economy. Like you said, Warner, those businesses are designed to be offering goods and services, and the numbers don't work out. It doesn't pencil out when there's long-term vacancies in those buildings. The investors, the pension funds, the unions, the people that have put their money to work building those retail spaces aren't being paid back. And that's a huge drag on the economy. And those people start pulling back when they realize their pension's being cut by 20%. They're starting to pull back. They're not taking the vacation. They're not buying the new car. They're not buying the washing machine. They're not upgrading a new television. They're not buying their kids new clothes. It's a huge drag on the economy. So when you're seeing those retail spots with long-term vacancies, that's a massive drag on the economy. Those are designed to have goods and services coming in and out of those spaces.
So not only is it a drag on the private economy, it's also a drag on those public economies. Because now if you think about it, who's maintaining those streets? It's the Beverly Hills jurisdiction, or if it's Culver City, it's Culver City, or if it's greater LA, it's LA. And now you're talking about all these stores that are no longer in business, no tax revenue. So where
Yeah, it's hard to raise tax revenue when you don't have a business there. There's even the person that owns that property. Go ahead and try to collect tax from them, or go ahead and try to raise not the income tax, the property tax on a business that isn't generating any income. The owners are rightfully going to say, no, we're not. There's no justification. This building isn't worth anything if I can't find a tenant to lease it. This space isn't worth your property. Your assessment is wrong if I can't find a tenant to come in here and rent this thing. And this is generational. What people need to kind of wrap their mind around is go back to 1929, the crash. It had a generational impact on entrepreneurship in America. It wasn't until the 1950s where people had confidence again that was back pre-29 crash. What you're going to see now is 2019 and pre-2019 and 2020. And that a gentleman who lost his hair salon, his restaurant, his bar is not going to go back. He's not going to go, let's take another crack at this. Let me go get another lease, long-term lease, do tenant improvements, amortization, and put millions of dollars at risk. That is a permanent loss. That gentleman he's going to seek greener pastures somewhere else. There is absolute permanent loss in the economy by shutting down the economy, closing businesses, small businesses, which are 50% of our economy in America. This is a massive recession and depression.
Yeah, exactly. So, and some other things to think about is now that you have, let's say you have a building, right? And these retail areas or these retail office buildings or single rise buildings as you're going down Robertson's is what they usually are, or maybe 2 stories. Now you have, say, an owner and he's got, I don't know, a few retail stores and a few of them are vacant. So now the guy who's currently leasing, he's going to go, well, this is vacant. And now I'm paying this premium rent here. Can you help me out with the rent? I'm struggling with my business. So now there's also an added stress to the owners of these retail spaces because now that guy's saying, well, there's no one here. Maybe I can move in there. Maybe that's a better space. Maybe that space was just redone. This space is an older space. So now this landlord is dealing with these other, there's no rents driving up the other rents. Now it's this downward deflationary pressure because now there's other areas that are vacant. So then the guy also goes, well, you know what? I'm not going to rent here anymore. I'm going to go find one of the other 1,000 spaces in LA and rent there when my lease is up. And then another guy's thinking, well, there's no more foot traffic here because half of these places are vacant. And people are going to say, well, this is vacant. It's kind of like a ghost town. Why are you going to come over here? So these corollary effects of just a few businesses going bankrupt, and then that happens all over the city. Now that impacts this landlord in a way that's putting a lot of pressure on him. Now when he comes to refinance, now the bank goes, well, you're 50% vacant. We're not going to give you your valuation. You're below the valuation that you took out to buy this place. We're not going to give you a higher valuation. Now it's lower. Now the guy's like underwater. Thing goes into forbearance, thing goes into foreclosure, and then the cycle just keeps going. That's what I think is coming is we have this environment where people are still thinking the past is going forward, and they haven't come to the realization that this new normal is a deflationary pressure driving down because all these businesses are going away, not to mention that the people that were working at these businesses are now being paid to stay at home. So the economy, this whole market update is telling us that the economy in the retail sector is completely out of whack, depending on where you are. If you're in Miami, it's a different story.
Absolutely. And to add, Warner, there's a psychological component to the consumer as well. When they see those vacancies, even you and I, we're doing incredibly well. I've pulled back. It has a psychological impact even on people that are doing well that go, ooh, maybe I'm too far over my skis. Even if I'm perfectly positioned over my skis, you feel like, maybe I shouldn't be as aggressive with my spending habits. I was in La Jolla yesterday eating sushi at Himitsu Sushi in La Jolla, wonderful sushi restaurant. I'm sitting in the parking lot, it's 82 degrees, the sun's beating on me eating sushi, and I pulled back a little bit. I had a salad, one roll, and one Sapporo. I didn't sit there for 3 or 4 hours. And I had all day. It was Sunday. I could have chilled out all day there. It was the environment was wrong. The ambiance was off. I'm sitting in a parking lot. There's a bus loading and unloading people. There's people backing up it basically onto my table. I had my food and I left. I pulled back. I didn't really enjoy myself. The economy, there's something broken in the economy when you're sitting in a parking lot. Instead of inside in a sushi restaurant, you're out in the parking lot, breathing, huffing car fumes while you're trying to eat and drink your afternoon lunch. Go ahead.
Yeah. And to close this out, if we have any listeners that are small business owners, now is the time to be reassessing whether you stay open or not. Don't think like you're going to hold this thing out. Do a really hard assessment. Hey, is this the right route? Maybe it's better to just take the funds that you have saved up and go buy a food truck and just cruise around in a food truck. And then you can just park at these beautiful locations. I don't know what the permitting situation is, but what I'm saying is, don't just assume it's going to go back to normal. Really do a hardcore assessment to say, hey, listen, where's my business now? How far am I below? If I'm 50% below or 75% below, it's like, guys, look at the numbers. It's time to reassess and build a little bit of mobility into your business. That's just our opinion.
Yeah, there's very few guys that can pivot. For those that can, don't get sucked into the trap of the sunk cost fallacy. Pivot. If you can pivot. A lot of these guys, their entrepreneurship has been permanently destroyed. It'll be a new generation. It'll take another 30 years to have a new crew of guys that want to get into the restaurant business or the hair salon business. This is permanent loss, and we're going to grow at a deflated or depressionary growth. It's less than our capacity to grow. We have the space, we have the talent. People aren't going to take the risk. And that's a depression. We could potentially be growing faster. Our economy could be growing faster, but because people are pulling back, that's a depressed growth.
Yeah, exactly. So great point. So to leave you guys with is always look at the market signals. Don't poo-poo it or say, oh, I'm not sure this is going to happen. Really look at it with some rationality and go, hey, this is what the numbers are saying. This is what the trajectory looks like. Don't try and tough it out. Just really look at it and make an honest assessment if you're required to pivot. So guys, if you like that content, please comment, like, subscribe to the channel if you're not a subscriber, and please share this with your friends. Thank you so much for your time.